On the video today, we have tips and tricks to help you win more auctions and at a lower cost than you otherwise would. I'm going to give you what I do when I go into an auction setting when I'm looking to buy a card. And then we're going to have highlights of my trip to watch USA versus Mexico in Cincinnati over the weekend. Absolutely fantastic match. I'm going to bring you some of the highlights from that trip as well. And then stay tuned till the end for a very, very important announcement. Here we go. Welcome into another video on the channel. This is Chris, the MLS Card Guy. Today, auctions. We're going over auctions. We have some tips, some tricks to hopefully help you win a few more auctions. Hopefully help you cut off a little bit of the excess that you didn't need to pay in order to win the auction. So we're going to go over a couple different types of auctions as well, and some different strategies that you may want to apply in order to be more successful in the specific type of auction that you are going after. So first, before we do that though, we are going to go over how the auction system works, because there's a specific way that this works so that you can bid a little bit more, or excuse me, a little bit less than you actually than it tells you that you need to bid in order to win the auction. So if you go in, let's take this guy here. Let's say that I want Iche here, and I'm pretty confident that his price is going to be 0.001. When I first see this card, now this has 3 minutes to go, so it probably doesn't matter at this point, but when I first see this card, I want to be the person that gets this 0.001 bid in. If I think he's going to go for 0.001, then I want to be the person to get that 0.001 in. So there are guys that are very good caliber guys that you can get for 0.001, which is the minimum. Actually, you might be able to get them for 0.0001 if you're really, really fast. But there are a lot of guys that just do this to see if they can get guys at this price and then sell them off for nothing. So realistically, this 0.001, if you're the guy that's already bid this, then you're going to get them. Whereas if I try to go in and bid now I have to bid 0.002 in order to outbid you. So the first thing is, when you're in a really, really low-end auction, like a 0.01, 0.02, you want to be the one to make the bid. You want to be the one that gets that price in there. And even if it gets up a little bit, so like say this 0.004, if I'm pretty confident that this is going to go for, like if his last 10 sales are all 0.004, and the lowest one on the market is 0.0045, and I would be really, really confident that this is not going to go for 0.005, then what I would do immediately, right off the bat, what I would do if he was even 0.0001, I would bid 0.003 and something. And I'm going to show you in a second how I would determine what that extra decimal place is. So instead of bidding this 0.004, I'm going to bid slightly under that, but enough so that someone to outbid me still has to bid 0.005. I'm pretty much guaranteed to get the auction at that point. It's just a question of waiting until the clock runs out. Alright, so now that we know when we want to bid, what should we actually be bidding? So when you go through an auction, it's a little bit of a kind of a weird system that is set up. You have to outbid the next bid lower by a certain percentage. I don't know what the percentage is, but you have to be a certain percentage higher. So at the very, very small auctions, like if I wanted to outbid this guy at 0.001, all I would have to do is bid 0.001. If I want to outbid 0.002, all I have to do is bid 0.003. If we go a little bit higher, though, we can see that, to outbid this 0.32, we have to go all the way up to 0.35. So obviously not increasing by 0.001 there, increasing by a whole lot more than that. So that percentage, they always round, I guess they round up, maybe they round down. I would guess that they round down, actually, to the next lowest number. So what I mean by that, in order to outbid 0.0019, I have to go all the way up to 0.003. In order to outbid 0.0017, I only have to go up to 0.002. So what I'm saying is you can kind of alter the system a little bit and bid lower. Instead of bidding 0.02, you can bid 0.019. Now, obviously a very, very small change in that one, but the higher up you go, the more of a difference it makes. And I believe the lowest is 0.018, but I could be wrong about that. Quick and easy way to check if you're not sure at the specific level that you're at, because the decimal numbers change based on which specific number that you're looking at. So if you're looking at 0.001, I believe the next decimal down is 0.0018. If you're looking at 0.003, I think it's 0.06, but I could be wrong. But if you want an easy way to check that, all you do is put in whatever price you're looking for. So let's say 0.004. Sort it by price. So in this case, it doesn't matter if it's highest or lowest, but just sort it by price. In this case, we'll use highest. And then we want to go down until we can see the 0.03 and then some change bids. So 0.0039, so in order to outbid that, I need 0.005. 0.0038 also maps to 0.005. 0.0037 maps to 0.005. Find another one down. 0.0035 maps to 0.004. So in this case, at the 0.003 level, I would say you're safe to bid 0.0037. 0.036, maybe. I would assume probably not, since people kind of know what they're doing. So 0.0037 would be a minimum price there. 0.035, kind of a pointless bid because someone can just outbid you at 0.004. You might as well have just bid 0.003 in this case. So make sure whichever level that you're looking at, make sure you just check when you go into an auction. Try to find some prices that are around that spot and see what it takes to outbid them. I'm sure there's some sort of percentage of the total that would actually just tell you straight up what the lowest number would be, but I don't know that information. Maybe that's something that somebody could figure out at some point. Probably somebody already has figured it out, and I just don't know about it. So that would be what you should bid. You should be bidding. So when we get our initial bid in there, we could be confident that it's going to go for 0.001, in which case we just bid 0.001. If we think it'll go for 0.02, then we bid 0.018. If we think it'll go for 0.03, we bid 0.0, I think it's 27. And so on, up the chain, as far as you want to go. So with the lower cards, again, that's something that you want to do is get your bid in early. So now taking a look at a second example here for a red card, let's say. So we have an Eric Adoy is currently out there. So the first thing we're going to do is try to figure out the market price. Okay, when I say market price, I do not mean this best offer. It could be the market price if there have been a lot of sales, and the sales are typically in this range. It could be a pretty good barometer of market price, but in all cases, this is a maximum price. So the market price won't be above 0.010. So we can start right there. That's a maximum price. Obviously, we should never be paying more on auction than this price right here. That's a maximum. So then we work our way down from there. Is there anything that we can shave off of that? So taking a look at the recent sales, we can see this one went for 0.009. We can see before that 0.010, 0.007. So it looks like it's probably pretty close to accurate as far as the range goes. But again, hasn't been a whole lot of sales here. So this one was sold 12 days ago. These are almost a month old at this point, and it hasn't sold since then. So what we can infer from that is there's not a lot of people looking at this card. There's not a lot of people who are actively trying to buy this card. So we could probably try to be pretty aggressive in trying to win this auction. So if we take a look, I think the auction, okay, so it's at 0.003 right now. So at this point, it should go for more than 0.03, right? The lowest one it's ever gone for is 0.06. So we should be fairly safe to actually make a bid. That's the first thing you want to know. Second thing is you want to know the max price. So 0.001 is probably the max price in this case. We can't shave that down. So sometimes you'll see like the best offer is like 0.002, and then the last sold is like 0.001. In that case, you probably want to adjust the maximum price down a little bit to account for just the lack of liquidity in the market. So anyway, we're going to say that's a pretty decent max price. So if we want to be super aggressive and try to get a really, really good discount on that, what we're going to do is make somebody pay the last sold price in order to outbid us. Okay, so the price that we want to bid is not the last sold price itself, because remember, we're thinking ahead. We're thinking about what the next person has to do in order to outbid us. So we want to say, okay, what's the lowest price I can bid to guarantee that the next person has to pay 0.009? And in this case, I think it's 0.077 or so. Again, I would just check the market, see if there's anything for 0.076, 0.077. Try to get it as low as you can, but I think that's the right price. So we would end up bidding 0.077 for this card. If someone outbids us, oh well, we lost it. You know, we were trying to be aggressive, didn't work. That'll happen, you know. So if you really, really want to make sure that you get the card, like you need it for this game week, you really, really like the player, you think he's at a really good price, and you're willing to go a little bit more, you can say, okay, I'm going to make somebody pay the maximum price in order to outbid me. So in this case, it would be 0.00, I think it's 86, but I could be wrong about that as well. Might be 0.008 or 0.0088. Anyway, essentially you want to make the person that is going to outbid you potentially have to pay this max price. If someone wanted to pay 0.01 for this card, they would just go ahead and buy this one. So they're not going to outbid you in order to get the auction card, because they could just buy one, you know, and have it immediately instead of waiting for that auction to end. So if you want to pretty well guarantee that you're going to get the card, you would say 0.088, for example. So that's when you don't know as much about the price. You kind of have a decent idea of the maximum, but it's a little more fuzzy. There's not a true market. Like with the limited cards, they get sold pretty much every day. So you should know what the market price is on that one. You want to get that bid in immediately if you want that card. With these, you can try to take a little bit off the top, you know, take off 0.01. Sometimes it may not work. Sometimes it works. When it doesn't work, you know, you don't lose anything. When it does work, great. You get a card for a little bit of a cheaper price. So the final thing we're going to go through here, Sergio Santos has a super rare card up there. So super rare is different. They don't have anywhere near the liquidity that you see from rares, and especially from limited. So they aren't going to have a market price. They're going to have a graph that looks something like this. I always go to 1 year for the super rares. They're going to have something like this, because typically you won't see a lot of super rare sales. This one has actually been auctioned a little over a month ago. So that's probably a pretty good comp, because the super rare market doesn't move that much. 0.270, and then we have some for below 0.17, one for 0.1. So we got a pretty good idea that this is probably in the 0.15 range-ish that we're going to have to pay for it. Now this best offer price is pretty much just trash. You can disregard that. You shouldn't be paying 0.3 for this card. Especially, I mean, I guess 0.27 is a comp. So maybe if you really are in love with the player. But again, that's a maximum. Sometimes they'll have decent prices. Most of the time they won't, though. So we would be expecting to pay like 0.15-ish for this card. Now, if we actually go and take a look at it on offer. So for super rare, here's the bid right here. Okay, so it's 0.12 now. That's actually changed very recently, because it was much lower than that. So at this point, 0.12, I'm going to check and see next highest bid would be 0.132. That's still below kind of what we were expecting to pay at 0.15. I'm not saying that this is a card you should go out and buy or anything like that. This is just the only super rare that's available for MLS right now. But I was just looking at this saying market price is probably like 0.15. What I would do in this situation is not what this person did. So, excuse me. We'll look at the bid history here, and I'll show you what not to do. So this person, 0.014, 0.016, 0.018, 0.02, and then 0.12. So he jumps the price by $400 here. And to be honest, if I were him, I'd be a little upset if I won this card at this price. The only reason to jump the price is if you are 100% confident that you will get outbid, right? You do not want to jump the price and then be the only one that bid that price, right? If he's wrong, if it's 0.12 and nobody else was willing to pay more than 0.08, then he just paid 0.04 more than he needed to, right? If he just went through and paid, 0.022 and just continued to bid up, sure, someone would outbid him, but at some point, people would drop out, and he would be able to bid whatever the next highest person bid. And it could definitely be lower than 0.12. Especially with these super rare cards, they don't have a market price. It kind of depends on who's paying attention to the auction at the time. So a lot of times you don't want to do what he did and jump the price like that. Now in this case, 0.12 is still probably a steal for a forward that gets semi-regular playing time. He's super hoping. He's definitely hoping that Santos goes back to more of this stuff. But I mean, I wouldn't do that personally. But that's just me. So anyway, what you want to do with super rares is you want to slowly increase the price, like these people did, right? 0.01, 0.014, 0.016. Now, is GBO21 expecting to win the card at this price? No, he is not. Should he bid this early in the auction? Probably not. You're not going to win the card at 0.016. But you never know. So maybe you can bid. But if you're going to bid, at least bid the minimum on these. And then you just kind of jump the price a little bit at a time. And then so the real key to winning these is set a timer for 9 hours and 18 minutes. Come in with 5 minutes to go and treat it like an eBay auction. If you still think that this is a good price, then you bid the next highest thing up. If someone outbids you, you bid again. If somebody outbids you, you bid again and again and again until eventually maybe somebody does actually outbid you and you say, well, this card is not worth this. I'm not going to pay this price, and you drop off. Either that or you end up winning the card, right? It doesn't cost you anything to place a bid. So with this stuff where you don't really know the market price, even if he thinks, yeah, I'm perfectly happy to pay 0.12, wouldn't you rather pay 0.08 if nobody else wants to pay 0.08 for the card instead of 0.12? Because you don't know who's watching and who's not watching. Now, I don't know, maybe he'll be asleep at 9.5 hours and he just wants to say, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. I mean, I guess that's a strategy as well. But if you're trying to maximize the amount of money that you have to pay, and I can show you one of the cards actually that I did this with. So Danny Hostin's one of the guys that I did this with, right? So I was sitting here, this is my win here, 0.035. I'm sitting here saying, okay, 0.08, 0.09, 0.1. There hasn't been a sale in a long time, but he's been hurt all season, so these sales, I mean, they should be market price, right? Because everybody at this time knew that he was going to be out for the whole season. Now, ETH was a little less expensive then, so maybe you take that into consideration. But going into this auction, I was like, okay, so I'm going to probably try to target this around like 0.06-ish. And if I can get it for that, great. If I can't get it for that, then I let somebody else have it. I just go through and, did the same thing that I just told you guys for. Instead of paying 0.06, I wound up with the card for 0.035. Love it. Think that's a great deal. Paid 0.025 less than what I thought I was going to pay. And then the market comes back almost immediately and says, yeah, that was probably a pretty decent price. Somebody else was willing to pay 0.038. Somebody else was willing to pay a little bit more. So you can see how had he bid 0.038 on my card, I probably would have gone to 0.041 and kept it going. Probably would have been a little bit more of an expensive card because I wanted the card, he wanted the card. This is probably going to end up being below market price. But I mean, that's just an example of how you can go through and win if you are going for super rares. I think a lot of times the auctions are the best place to get them, just because a lot of people don't pay attention to them. So you can find some of these guys that are a little bit more project-y type guys, and you can find them at a pretty decent discount on the auction market, as opposed to these direct offers here. So I hope that was informative for you guys as to maybe a few tips or tricks at the lower budgets as well as at the higher scarcity levels as well. So I'm going to go through really quickly. We're going to show you highlights of my trip to Cincinnati for USA versus Mexico. Really, really awesome experience overall. Cincinnati packed out the place full of US fans, which was great to see. Typically we play Mexico. It's a pretty even split. If not, Mexico has a few more fans there than we do. But really, really packed it out. Beautiful stadium. Did these really, really cool things with the lights, which I'll show you guys. They gave us little like wristwatch things, and then turned out all the lights in the stadium, and then did like a show with music and everything like that. So I'll go ahead and show you guys the video. Obviously picked up the win, 2-0, which is a very, very famous scoreline if you're not familiar with USA Mexico. We've beaten them 10 times by the score of 2-0. And all the biggest games that we've won, all their scorelines are 2-0, including the World Cup game in 2002 and a bunch of World Cup qualifiers over the last decade. So, like I said, a great experience, really, really fun. Great to see the game growing over here across the pond in the United States. But now we're going to show you the video.
USA! 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 Hit it, hit it, hit it! Oh! Look at it! 2-0! 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. USA, 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 USA.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Like I said, really, really cool experience to be able to be a part of that. Definitely my most fun soccer memory so far. Hopefully I'll be able to make a trip to Europe at some point and get to see some of these really cathedrals to the game that you guys have over there. I'm super pumped to go touring around England, Germany, Spain, wherever you guys are. Definitely let me know the best places to go that are kind of off the beaten path, as far as like restaurants, travel, anything like that. If you guys have recommendations, definitely let me know, because that will be something, maybe not this year, but possibly next year. Hopefully, we'll get it done as soon as possible. But that's definitely something that'll be on the radar here coming up. So we have one last thing here before we head off for the day. Very important announcement. If you're not following the Twitter page at MLS Card Guy, go and follow that. So I am going to start using the Twitter page for the off season to tweet a bunch of roster notes, to tweet a bunch of just analysis on individual roster situations, coaching changes, all of this stuff that I keep track of for myself. I figure I might as well give it to all of you guys. That will be coming on the Twitter page. Anytime I find any information like that, I will retweet it for you guys or tweet it myself, either way, so that you guys are also aware of that. I'm going to try to get a few connections so that we have some nice reporting to do for you guys. But very, very important. Go and follow the Twitter account for the off season as we start to see, Inter Miami cutting all of their entire team. They decided not to bring back any of the guys that had contract options for 2022. Chicago did the same thing earlier. So very major implications on how those teams are going to construct their rosters. We've got transfer rumors going on. So for some of the teams that are out of the playoffs, the offseason has started. So we're going to start to get that information out to you guys. But I really appreciate you guys hanging in there till the end. I know a little bit of a longer video tonight, but hopefully it was some good information. Hopefully you guys had a little bit of fun watching the highlights from USA Mexico. And make sure you go and follow the Twitter page at MLS Card Guy. We're going to try to get a little bit more of that information out to you guys. But until the next time, Vamos United.